Once upon a time, I met a blind man who changed the way I saw the world forever. He lived in a small, quiet neighborhood near the edge of town. People knew him as kind, polite, and always cheerful. Even though he couldn't see, he always had a smile on his face. I often saw him sitting on a bench near the park, feeding birds or chatting with people who passed by. There was something peaceful about him, something calm, like he had figured out something most of us hadn't. One day, I finally gathered the courage to talk to him. I sat next to him on the bench and introduced myself. He turned toward my voice, smiled, and said, "Hello, young man. Beautiful day, isn't it?" I looked around. It was cloudy, and the wind was cold. I hesitated and said, "Well, I guess it's okay." He laughed softly and said, "To me, every day is beautiful." I was curious. I asked him, "You always seem happy. How do you do that? You can't even see the world around you. Doesn't that make you sad?" He turned his face toward the sound of the wind and replied, "It used to. When I first lost my sight, I was angry. I felt like life was unfair. I kept thinking about all the things I had lost: sunsets, smiles, colors, faces. But over time, I learned something important. Seeing isn't just with the eyes." I didn't understand. I asked him, "What do you mean?" He smiled again and said, "Let me tell you a story. When I was younger, I loved photography. I would travel to different places, capturing everything I saw: mountains, oceans, forests, cities. I wanted to remember it all. I thought that seeing the world through my camera was the best way to experience life. But then, one day, I was in a car accident. I survived, but my eyes didn't. At first, I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. My world went dark, and I thought my life was over." I listened quietly as he spoke, his voice steady, calm. For weeks, I stayed in my room. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I felt sorry for myself. But one day, my niece came to visit. She was only 6 years old. She climbed into my lap, touched my face gently, and said, "Uncle, you don't need eyes to see. You just need to listen." He paused and smiled, as if remembering her words clearly. That moment changed me. I started to listen more. I began to notice the sound of leaves rustling in the wind, the laughter of children playing, the rhythm of footsteps on the pavement. I realized that even though I couldn't see, I could still feel. I could still connect with the world. I just had to pay attention differently. I sat there, stunned. I never thought of it that way before. He continued, "People often rely so much on their eyes that they forget to see with their hearts. They miss the little things: a kind word, a warm voice, a gentle breeze. They're so focused on what things look like, they forget to ask how things feel." I asked him, "But don't you ever miss seeing? Don't you ever wish you could see again?" He nodded slowly. "Of course, I do. I miss faces. I miss colors. But I've learned to find beauty in other ways. When someone speaks kindly to me, I see their heart. When I hear birds singing in the morning, I imagine the sunrise. And when someone laughs, I picture a bright smile. My world isn't dark. It's just ... different." His words stayed with me long after our conversation ended. That day, I started to pay more attention. I closed my eyes and listened. I felt the sun on my skin. I heard the sound of wind passing through the trees. I noticed how my friend's voice changed when they were tired, or how the scent of coffee made me feel comforted. It was as if I had been blind in a different way, blind to the simple things that made life beautiful. The blind man taught me that true sight isn't about your eyes. It's about awareness. It's about being present. He taught me that seeing isn't just about looking. It's about feeling, hearing, sensing, and appreciating. Most of all, he showed me that gratitude can turn even the darkest moments into light. I started visiting him more often. We would sit on the same bench, sometimes talking, sometimes just listening to the world around us. He told me more stories about his childhood, about the first time he learned to use a cane, about how he once got lost and had to find his way home just by memory and sound. One day I asked him, "Aren't you ever afraid? You walk around the city alone. What if you trip or get hurt?" He laughed and said, "Of course I've fallen. Of course I've made mistakes. But fear is like a wall. If you let it grow too high, you won't go anywhere. I trust my steps. I trust the people around me. And even if I fall, I get back up. That's life." His courage amazed me. His peace humbled me. I realized how much I had taken for granted: my vision, my mobility. And yet, here was a man who had lost one of the most important senses, and still found joy in the smallest things. One afternoon, he told me something I will never forget. He said, "I used to think that losing my sight was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But now I see ... It was a gift. It made me slow down. It made me listen. It taught me how to see what really matters." I asked him, "And what really matters?" He smiled gently and said, "Kindness, connection, presence, gratitude, love. Those are the things worth seeing." Since meeting him, my life has changed. I no longer rush through the day without noticing the world around me. I stop to hear the laughter of a stranger. I feel the warmth of the sun. I notice the texture of my morning toast or the softness of my dog's fur. I say thank you more often. I listen more. I appreciate more. The blind man showed me that sometimes we are the ones who are truly blind, even with perfect vision. And those who cannot see with their eyes often see with a depth we can't imagine. His story became a part of me, and now I share it with others, because sometimes one conversation, one person, can change the way you see the world forever. Thanks to a blind man, I finally learned how to truly see.